Stop making characters that feel good to control. As the video game industry gets older and older, it seems like everything gets way more refined. Graphics have to be cleaner, stories more intense, and experiences more polished. Sure, there's the occasional glitch-ridden mess, but in general, most AAA games are praised for polished, and things that are rough around the edges are criticized, rightfully so. Who wants to play a game that hasn't figured the basics out? If there's one aspect that the industry has mastered by this point, it's game feel. Even if your story's bad, it's a repetitive experience, or it's just a mediocre game in general, most developers have made it so everything you do feels incredibly satisfying. And I hate this. That's slightly vague. Maybe I'm not explaining myself well. For example, let's take Doom. You know what? It's too early in the morning for this kind of energy. Could we please just turn that down a notch? Thank you. Okay, that's better. Doom feels really good to control. You move at a pretty brisk pace, and jumps feel high enough to have an impact but low enough to rush down enemies. The guns you acquire range from amazing to, oh my god, when I have the opportunity to mow down a large group of people, I would choose the super shotgun. Don't worry, I said when, not if. From start to finish, you are in full control of all of Doomguy's abilities, letting you rip and tear through any enemy you see. And that's my problem. Yeah, it feels great to tear down demons straight out of the gate. But that also means there's no incentive to get better with the movement. You can learn the levels better to move through them faster, or aim well to kill demons quicker, but that has nothing to do with the movement itself. There are no difficult techniques to pull off, no interesting quirks to discover, and once you learn how to jump and shoot, there's nothing more there. Your character feels too good. But don't take it from me. Take it from the developers. In the sequel, Doom Eternal, it adds dashes, earlier double jumps, and grappling hooks. These things aren't something you can use to their full potential right when you start the game up. It feels weird coming straight off the heels of the first game to have so much freedom. But that weirdness and uncertainty is what I'm looking for. I had to get used to the controls as I played the game, so once I finished it, it felt like my movement skills had increased drastically. Okay, maybe that was a bad example. After all, Doom is a shooter. Movement really isn't the focus of that game. How about we take something like Hollow Knight? Hollow Knight is very close to what I want. The game gives you 4 seemingly useless moves: Howling Wraiths, Desolate Dive, the Cyclone Slash, and the Dashing Slash. In my personal playthrough, I maybe used each move once or twice if you count when I had to use them in the environment. This is because they all feel very niche attacking roles. The Wraiths hit above you, the Dive hits below you but only when you're in the air, the Dash Slash has to be charged and can only be used after the aforementioned dash, and the Cyclone Slash can be used as a roll read. I don't know about that one. The whole time I was waiting for a genius moment where these moves' purpose would be revealed to me. So I waited. Then I got 3/4 of the way through the game. And then I kept waiting. And then I finished it. Hollow Knight's problem isn't that it doesn't have weird feeling things, it's just that the rest of the Knight's kit feels too good. It makes these moves obsolete, and in some cases, a literal detriment to use. Maybe you could try using the dive for the invincibility frames. Actually, the dash gets the shade cloak. If you were thinking to use the dash slash to hit a faraway enemy, don't worry, Vengeful Spirit exists instead. At least hitting above you could be useful. except that there's an upward slash on the nail, and there are charms that make your nails stronger, faster, have 0 knockback, become longer, and wow, this sounds like a Viagra commercial. Hollow Knight almost beats the trap, but it fails. Simply because the Knight's basic mechanics feel so good to control, there's no incentive to use his weird niche options. In my time playing the game, I never mastered the Knight, because I never had to. Now, while we're eagerly waiting for a fan of Hollow Knight to comment something about how the lore of the game prevents it from being criticized, I'd like to talk about another Metroidvania. It's from this little unknown series. I think I saw it on Netflix once. It's called Castlevania? But in all seriousness, for being half the foundation of a whole genre, it seems that people talk more about the intergalactic bounty hunter more than the dudes who are probably into BDSM. Unless a sexy vampire is one of the main characters. This series is full of gems though, including my favorite criminally underrated Metroidvania, Castlevania Circle of the Moon. Castlevania Circle of the Moon is a great game because it feels bad to control. At the beginning of the game, all you have at your disposal are the jump, whip strike, the crouch, the slide, and this weird whip spin thing, which has no purpose, but it makes you feel cool. You can also use sub-weapons and the dual setup system, but due to low drop rates, I ended up not really using the card system at all. To show you how limited you are, this is your walk speed. Yeah, don't worry, your first upgrade is the dash boots anyway. When you first boot up the game, your character, Nathan Graves, feels incredibly bad to control. He's awkward, slow, and clunky. Whipping on the ground stops your momentum entirely. And unlike his fellow Castlevania protagonists, he can't cancel animations by backdashing, because he can't backdash. Nathan feels incredibly bad to control. At first. You see, as I started playing Circle of the Moon, I started to become more and more familiar with his playstyle. I started to notice little things about how he played. Things like if you jump and whip, and press the opposite direction to where he's facing, Nathan will immediately turn around rather than drift away. Or how the slide can be used as a dodge, but it can also be used to damage enemies that are really close to the ground. Or even how this tackle you get later on in the game is horrible as a movement option most of the time. But if it's used off a platform, it has no end lag, meaning you can keep your momentum going. As I kept going further and further into the game, I started to realize that Nathan doesn't actually feel bad at all. He's quite agile. And maybe that's because it's a Metroidvania, and you literally get upgrades to make the character feel better to control. But I like to think that at least part of the reason why is because by the end of the game, I knew when to use each of his moves. Even the whip spin, that I told you was incredibly useless, was actually an incredibly useful move that could be used to block all the destructible projectiles in the game. Nathan never really felt bad to control, I just didn't know how to use him. And I love that. So, I may have clickbaited you. I don't actually want games that feel bad to control. In fact, satisfaction is one of the most important things to me in a game. It all comes down to a reoccurring theme on this channel: mastery. If something feels amazing right off the bat like Doom, it can be great for some players who just want to get straight into the action, but it limits how complex the movement can be. Hollow Knight is close to the goal, with niche moves begging to be mastered, but the rest of his kit is so intuitive, there's no reason to use them. Circle of the Moon takes the best approach, feeling off-putting in the beginning, but eventually, the player figures out how to make Nathan feel like an extension of themselves. Should every game be designed like Circle of the Moon? No, absolutely not. Some games literally pride themselves on being able to be picked up by anyone. But I think every game should at least learn from Circle of the Moon. And they really already have. The best titles of today combine the best of both worlds, being incredibly easy to pick up and understand, while also having mechanics that will take hundreds of hours to master. I guess I better get started. Dude, can we go 1 week without mentioning Mario Odyssey at least once? Hey guys, sorry about the delay. I was midway through editing this week's video when I realized that I really didn't believe in what I was saying, so I reworked it into what it is now. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you next time. Bye!